You can just write example 4. I want us all to feel comfortable with completing the square and using the formula when we're done with this, okay? So please ask when there's something that you still don't understand. Right, so we're going to start by taking out, you remember the first step? We take out this coefficient out of the, look here, focus, concentrate, out of the first and the second term. So if I take it out, I will have x squared plus 3 over 2x. I leave a space, I close the bracket, minus 5 equal to 0. Okay. Now I want to get the magic number. I will give you 10 seconds. See if you can find the magic number for me. You don't even have to square it. Just tell me what I must write here plus what. 3 over 4 squared. Now you see how easy it is when you know you are multiplying with a half. Then it's just 3 over 4 squared. And then I must also subtract it, no? But now I want it calculated, and do you remember what's the trick now? Something I have to remember. Carabello, you said it now, previous period. When something goes into the bracket, what do? When something goes into the bracket, divide. When something has to go out of the bracket, we multiply. So you remember, we want that thing to go out of the bracket. No? So I'm going to say 9 over 16 times 2. You all understand that? Yes. 9 over 16 times 2 will give me 9 over 8, and it's minus. Asseblief, are you all sure of that step? Because that is the deal maker step. Tila? Yes, I'm you okay, Moses? Sorry? Okay. Alright. I think when we are going to do the homework, I just, although we're not necessarily going to use completing of the square, because we have the formula. If you are feeling that you are not 100% sure with completing of the square, I'm only going to give you 6 sums to do with the formula. You'll probably finish during class time. I would suggest going to try them with the completing of the square as well. Okay. Just so you know you are fine, because then you have most the answers. You got it with the formula. Okay. Alright, so now I leave this 2 here. It's bracket. I have to factorize this perfect square that I have made. It's always going to be a perfect square because I make it perfect. Okay. So it's that one square root, this one sine, this one square root, squared. And then you can use your calculator saying minus 5 minus 9 over 8. It's negative 49 over 8. I'm going to take it over to the other side. It becomes 49 over 8. What am I going to do now? No. Divide by 2 first. No, the bracket of the square has to be alone before I can do the inverse. So I divide with 2. I divide with 2. X plus 3 over 4 square equal to 49 over 16. Now I can take the square root of both sides. And I have x plus 3 over 4 equal to, do you notice that? Yes. Perfect squares. Good. 7 over 4. What must I just remember? And let me tell you a secret. When you're using the completing of the square, in this last step where you take it over, your denominators will always be the same. Always. If it's not, you made a mistake. Okay. So the two sums I have is going to be 7 over 4 minus 3 over 4, which is 4 over 4, né? And that's 1. And the other one I have is negative 7 over 4 minus 3 over 4. That gives me negative 10 over 4, which is going to be equal to negative 5 over 2. That's negative 2.5, no? Okay. Okay, the part I'm doing now, you don't have to do every time. It's just so I know that you are all sure which one is A, which one is B, which one is C. This is A. Look here. This is B. The sign and the number. This one is C, the sign and the number. Okay, let's see if you can substitute it in quickly. I will also do it, but I want you to try it yourself. There were kids in the Afrikaans class now that are substituting without using brackets. Eh? So like into that B value there. If it's a negative number, they just say negative 5 squared. You know when you say negative 5 squared, you are only squaring the 5 and not the negative, ne? Okay, don't do that. There is my substitution, and then you can use your calculator. You know what we expect to get. It's Afrikaans now, but the sum is the same. I showed this to the Afrikaans class previous period. This is November 2022. This is the format of all the question papers. 1.1.1, normal factorizing. You would be able to do that, am I right? Number 2, they say correct to 2 decimal places. That means formula. It would count 4 or 5 marks. The moment that they say round it off to 2 decimals or to whatever decimals, then you know it's the formula. You don't even go and try and haki something. It's not going to work. It's going to be irrational values. Okay. The next one, it's an inequality. We're going to do it in this chapter now. There is that last one of the exponents. Getting the surd alone, squaring both sides. Okay. This one is simultaneous equations. You already did simultaneous in grade 10. This one is just the one will be a linear one and the other one will be quadratic. We're also doing that in this chapter we're busy with. There's just a level 4 third question. 2.1.1, the exponents, previous chapter. The third, previous chapter. There's that exponent one from the previous, 2x and x. We'll be able to do that. There's the one where the bases can't be the same, then you make the exponents the same. And that's the first 41 marks of a question paper. This part is gonna basically be the same for March, June, November. Question 1 is equations, but with the chapter we're busy with now. Chapter 2, exponents, previous chapter. It's a question paper. Okay, but if you go and look at previous question papers, and I suggest you start looking at it so long while these things are fresh in your memory. It's question 1 and 2 you can do now. It's just 1 or 2 of the sums. It's the inequality, the one where they have a bigger than or smaller than thingy, and the simultaneous that you cannot do yet. This is a level 4. It will always be one that you haven't seen yet. Will be a challenging one. 150. Okay. So you are going to do exercise 6 for me. But before you do it, you remember I wanted to talk to you about something. First thing I want to tell you is this thing. This thing under the third. Not with the third, just the third. You don't have to write this down now, we are going to do it. This thing is called delta. Delta. Okay. Delta. Delta has got, its symbol is a triangle. That's delta. Now the reason that this thing has a special name is because of the following. I just want to show you. With that example 1 that we did, you remember that one? Yes. Where we used the formula, but with example 1. If you calculate the value of this delta part, it gives me an answer of 36. What type of number is 36? It's a perfect square, no? This is now, it's not something that you would have done, that we did. We just typed it in the calculator once. I'm just telling you, if you just go and calculate that, that's 16 plus 20, that's 36. Huh? Yeah, without the square root, it's 36, which means it's a perfect square. Now, what that meant for the answers that we got is because you're taking the square root of a perfect square, your answer will be nice answers. Mathematical word for nice answers is rational numbers. Okay? Rational numbers. So when we get delta to be a perfect square, we know, because you remember the x values, they're actually the places where the parabola cuts the x-axis. Next. So when that's a perfect square, we know it's going to cut the x-axis, and that's going to be nice numbers like -1 and -5. -1 and 5. Okay. If it happens that this is not a perfect square, let's say it's 10. The square root of 10 is an ugly number, ne? The mathematical word for ugly is irrational, ne? Never ending decimal number. So you can imagine if you've got 4 plus never ending decimal number divided by 2, it will still be a never ending decimal number. So in this one, delta was a perfect square. If delta is not a perfect square, we know that it's going to cut, but these two values is going to be irrational, going on until forever. For example, like this, going on forever. Right. If delta is 0, né? So for instance, you have negative 4 squared, it gives you 16 minus 16, then you will get 0. Right. What will the answer be of 4 plus 0 divided by 2? 4 plus 0 divided by 2. 2. Okay? That will be your 1x answer. What will the answer be? 4 minus 0 divided by 2. 2. Because the square root of 0 is 0. No? Okay. So do you see when delta is 0, you will get 2 of the same answers. We call it equal roots. You don't get 2 different answers. Now just look at this. This is what the equal root looks like. It only cuts once. Only cuts once. That's a perfect square parabola. You remember when we take perfect square? Yes. We get 2 of the same brackets, same answer. That's what it looks like graphically. Okay. And the last thing that can happen, the last thing, is when a graph looks like this. There's the x-axis and it's there. Do you see it's not cutting the x-axis? In other words, the roots, these things are called the roots. The roots don't exist. Do you remember we spoke about numbers that, or values or things that don't exist in mathematics? It's called non-real. Remember when it, or can you give me an example of a non-real? Negative exists, but something about, you're on the right track? The square root of a negative, no. The square root of a negative is non-real. It doesn't exist. These roots does not exist. That means your delta will be smaller than 0 because it would have to mean you're going to take the square root of a negative number. And that means they don't exist. So if it happens that you type this thing in your calculator. In the Afrikaans class, someone typed it and they said, "Ma'am, I'm not getting to the right answer. It's giving me a math error." No? Then it means something, and remember, it happens that it can give you math error. It happens that you have a parabola that doesn't cut the roots, doesn't cut the x-axis. But obviously we knew this one would cut. So I knew the problem was at delta. He got this to be 25. No? And this one, he didn't put in the negative sign. So it was negative 4 times 2, which is negative 8, times 12, which is negative 96. And 25 minus 96 gave him a negative answer in delta, and that's why he got a math error. So I want you to understand, if you got a math error, go and make sure. Remember, it can happen. It can happen. But go and make sure that your signs for your A and your C value is correct. Okay? Because if it's negative, can happen, it means the parabola doesn't cut the x-axis. So what I did with you now is called the nature of the root. The name makes sense, ne? What is your nature? What are you like, ne? And the roots are the x-axis. So what are the x-axis like? And we get that by looking at the value of delta. That's going to be a part that we're going to do as well. Okay. But for now, I want you to do exercise 6. Number 1A, C and E. And number 2A, C and E. Okay, now the only difference between number 1 and number 2 is that number 2 they're asking you to leave your answer in simplest surd form. Page 31. They're asking for the answer in simplest third form, and number 2 is asking rounded off to 1 decimal. Now, just remember, I will show you the first one's answer. It is 7 plus the square root of 85, I think it's over 2. No? It looks like that when you type it in your calculator. That is the third form. That will be your answer. That is the simplest third form. So at number 2, where they want the decimal answer, once you've gotten that, you just press this S to D button. Then it will give this answer as a decimal. When you give it in third form, you are also welcome. The one answer will be 7 plus root 85 over 2. The other one will be 7 minus root 85 over 2. You are welcome to write it like that. One answer. 7 plus minus root 85 over 2. Then you have given both answers. But that you can only do with third form. Decimal, they will be very different. Okay.